For those of you who are joining us today, really excited to chat about make-ready deliverables. We have a great panel here today. All of you are attendees here, so you can't unmute and ask questions directly, but please, as we're going through this, put questions into the chat. I will do my best to kind of look through those questions as we're going. If they're relevant to what we're talking about in that moment, we'll go ahead and try and incorporate them into the conversation. And then if not, we'll make sure to save plenty of time at the end for Q&A as well. So definitely stick around and we will make sure to get to all of your questions. My name is Jared Ben-Jamin. I'm on the Mach9 team. I'm going to be moderating our panel today. I'm joined by Jason Taylor from Seiler, Jake Steele from Stalcup, and then my colleague Seth Gulich here at Mach9 as well. We'll kind of get into intros and what each of us does in this ecosystem in just a minute here. But yeah, thank you all for joining us today. Excited to have this discussion. So what we're really here to talk about is kind of the issue in make ready today. And so the industry is really expanding faster than kind of the legacy workflows that have been supporting it. And so all three of us kind of come together in this environment to actually help solve the issue and help kind of get to delivery much quicker. So this industry is one that's continuing to boom, continuing to grow, and really the workflows that have been supporting it in the past no longer support the scale that the industry is growing at. So Jason, I will pass it over to you to kind of introduce Seiler and what you guys do.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here, kind of sharing these workflows with everyone. My name is Jason Taylor. I head up the mobile mapping group for Seiler Geospatial. So Seiler is a distribution partner for Trimble Geospatial. We cover a large swath of the Midwest into the Gulf region, and we cover the entire geospatial portfolio for Trimble. So anything from total stations, GPS, all the way up to what we're talking about today here with the mobile mapping portfolio. So just happy to be here and happy to be representing Seiler.
Amazing. We're happy you're here too, Jason. Thanks for having us. And then Seth, I'll pass it over to you to kind of talk through Mach9 and what we do in this equation really quick too.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jared. So for those of you who don't know Mach9, we are a software as a service company. Our primary software is called Digital Surveyor 2, and it is a geospatial production software. It is an AI-assisted data extraction software for any type of remote sensing data. It gets most heavily used currently with mobile mapping data. So that's primarily what we're here for, to talk about some of these great workflows that it gets used with by some of these wonderful Trimble systems. So users are able to upload their data, run it through our automation, do full data extraction on the cloud. We're a full cloud-based data extraction platform. Share out that data, do a full streamlined QA/QC process, and then deliver directly downstream into your CAD and GIS platforms.
Amazing. Thanks, Seth. And definitely hit us with any hard questions that you have. Seth is our resident survey guru with a ton of industry experience here at Mach9, so he'll definitely be able to tackle some of the toughies. And then Jake, I'll pass it over to you to talk through what you guys do at Stalcup.
Excellent. Appreciate it, Jared. We at Stalcup Associates are a design team. We do CAD, GIS, geospatial design for fiber optic utility installation. We work all over the nation, anywhere from Texas to Montana. We've been coast to coast. So we've got work kind of everywhere and spread out. So what we do is we take the platform from the mobile LiDAR collection and using Mach9 and the extractions, create two-dimensional drawings for construction and permitting. And our side on the other side of it is to take that product and create something that a contractor can go out into the field and build. And the benefit there is that we know that everything that we collect is geospatially correct, and that it's going to be accurate, which that's one of the huge benefits of having Mach9 and doing the mobile data collection. We know exactly where everything is geospatially.
Amazing. Thanks, Jake. So hopefully what we're going to kind of leave you all today with is a good understanding of how the three of us kind of come together to tackle the issue in Make Ready today, and how Stalcup is kind of using their mobile mapping unit Mach9 in order to get the permit and deliverable quicker. So I think what you'll come out of today is this idea of how you can capture once, use that data for a bunch of different things, how AI is now playing into the space, and how we're getting to deliverables quicker. So as I mentioned, this is going to be kind of an open panel. So I'll start off by asking some of our panelists a few questions, and then we will get into demos of the Mach9 platform, both from Seth and Jake. And then please, as questions come up, nothing too big, too small, feel free to ask them. Between Jason, Jake, Seth, and myself, we should have good coverage on kind of everything that you might have questions about. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into a few questions here. So I guess, Jake, maybe starting with you, what did producing Make Ready deliverables look like originally for the team a couple years ago? And where was the time actually getting eaten up in that process?
For us, the deliverables, really the industry has been moving toward the mobile LiDAR for a little while, but for us and our team, we have been still doing it by hand, so to speak, by foot, going out and GPSing points, doing data collection that way. And really that's where the time gets eaten up, because, while we can be discerning about what we pick up, what we gather, the biggest issue is the time on site to get all that stuff picked up and make sure that it's correct. We still have to, kind of do some data scrubbing when it comes in just to verify what's out there. But we've noticed a huge improvement in just being able to verify objects speed-wise and collecting it here. And far sight better doing that than using the wheel and tape method that, was industry standard, 5 years ago. So yeah, it's definitely a huge improvement.
Amazing. And Jason, I guess when you look at your customer base, like what's pushing firms towards mobile mapping, would you say?
So I would say traditionally, there's been a handful of factors that have been key drivers with people adopting mobile mapping. Some of those are safety, efficiency, and scalability. And so as mobile mapping customers expand out of that kind of traditional DOT corridor mapping project into some more specific verticals like telecom, specifically fiber to the home, a lot of those themes are the same. But I think in this industry right now, scalability is huge. So the ability for customers like Stalcup to collect hundreds of miles of data and take that from data collection to deliverable in a ever increasing shorter amount of time, because as we all know, the projects are getting larger, but the time with which we have to do them is getting smaller. So really, it's a logical choice as far as a platform to collect this data. But again, safety, keeping workers out of the road, that's always a huge driver as well. And then also data reusability. So we might have a list of deliverables that we're trying to extract. We all know what scope creep is. but being able to capture this data once, use it multiple times, and extract additional features as needed. So those are some of the key factors I think right now, and I think they resonate across different industries.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of those resonate with what we see from our customer base as well. Seth, I'm curious, do you feel like that's similar with the pattern that we're seeing, and firms that are kind of making the switch to this mobile mapping, AI extraction kind of workflow?
Yeah, I think Jason really hit the nail on the head there. With a lot of the firms that we're dealing with, there's a number of factors that come into play, whether it's safety, the time savings benefit to it, and then just the added benefit of being able to capture a lot more on these projects up front to prevent possible redeployments, rework, where they have to go back out to collect something that may be very minor, but it could be very costly in order to redeploy out when you're trying to capture hundreds of miles at a time on some of these large projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all of you kind of on the line here obviously joined this, so there's some interest in the topic. So you likely know this, but mobile mapping setups can look different. There's a lot of different options out there. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of set up your hardware. So before we kind of dive into what some of this actually looks like, Jason, maybe you can walk us through the Trimble mobile mapping kit that Stalcup's actually running, and what some of the differences are there, and what actually makes that data kind of downstream ready for for our software for Mach9.
Right now, we have two main platforms in our portfolio. We have the MX90, and then we have the MX60. So hopefully at some point this year, we're going to be adding an additional sensor in there. But both the MX90 and MX60 are great options for this type of work. I feel like the MX60, which is what Stalcup is using, is really a great fit for fiber to home for a handful of reasons. So price point is very competitive. The specs as far as what we're gathering, we have a nice combination of laser density along with high resolution imagery. And then there's a couple different options within that MX60 portfolio, depending on specifically what you're looking for, accuracy wise and sensor wise. So there's some options there. The 60 that we ended up going with for Stalcup, again, it's collecting about 2 million points per second. And then the panoramic camera is a 72 megapixel Ladybug 6. So that imagery, is very important for you guys downstream. And then it also has a downward facing pavement camera that's getting used for you guys as well. But, that's the hardware side. Some of the other key features, why it was a good fit. Really, we've been able to kind of simplify the workflow from field to our export going to you guys, to a point where, it's the barrier of entry for these guys is lower. We've lowered the complexity to create a good product, and we can get it to you faster. So some of the things, our flagship software is Trimble Business Center. So Jake and his team are taking that raw data. We're processing our trajectories, making sure we're getting good, high quality data there. Oftentimes we're using a relatively new process called LiDAR QC, where if we have multiple runs, which oftentimes is important for them because they might not know exactly which side they're going to be designing on. So we might be running both sides of a highway or secondary routes. So LiDAR QC enables us to align all of those individual runs during the trajectory processing. So it's an automated process happening in the background, and we get really nice aligned data. So all of that's key, to get high quality data in and then out for you guys so that you can start generating those deliverables.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I feel like sometimes people underestimate how important the actual data that you're collecting is for kind of getting the results that you want to see from it.
Yeah, 100%.
Jake, I guess, so, once you have this great data that you've collected with your mobile mapping unit, the first time you brought it into Digital Surveyor 2, what surprised you? Good, bad, interesting? Just, first kind of reactions when you saw that.
Starting with Mach9, we started with Digital Surveyor, and what we switched over when we jumped over as quick as we could to the Digital Surveyor 2, and it's a lot cleaner. It's really, really nice looking, clean platform, and so we're really pleased with the product that we've got there. In fact, one of the things that I will show later is the fact that we can do color variation for classification. You guys have a classification setting similar to what's in Trimble Business, so we can turn on and off layers, which helps with the cleaning of some of the objects and stuff that are in there. Huge benefit. Kind of took a little bit of the sting, to be honest, out of not having the right click fly out menu capability, but which I know Seth and I have talked about, Jared, and we've all talked about a little bit, but the reality is the functionality that we get is a lot more streamlined, and so really that has become a non-issue. We've managed to just learn the software. It's really elegant, and it works really, really well for our needs. But yeah. And, our biggest thing, and we were just talking about, is the fact that, you guys have been right there with us, kind of hand in hand, walking us through what we're needing and when we need it. We're regularly in contact. Huge help for us. And that's probably one of my biggest compliments to you guys and your team, is just the fact that you guys are extremely proactive, with your customer engagement. You're right on top of it. You want to make sure that, who's using the software is taken care of.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, absolutely. We appreciate the back and forth with you as well, and it makes it easy. Well, Seth, maybe you can actually kind of walk us through what Digital Surveyor 2 actually kind of is and does with the data once it lands. So, once Jake and his team go out and, drive their mobile mapping unit down the road, collect a bunch of data, get it ready for us. What actually happens with it once it lands in Digital Surveyor? I think that'd be helpful to kind of contextualize this here for people.
Yeah, of course. So a few things happen. Once they get their collection done, they go and jump into Trimble Business Center. They're able to export out of Trimble Business Center. It's a very straightforward export there that we require out of that. And then they log into our platform and do a data upload. After the data uploads, it goes through what we call a pre-processing step. The pre-processing step is it's just taking all those files, converting them over to what they need. It loads into our Digital Surveyor 2 viewer, so that you can actually view the point cloud data, view the imagery and the trajectory. We start to work with that data a little bit. Our models start to kind of analyze it. We do a quick classification, which Jake was already talking about. And then once all of that's done and like the files have been unpackaged and unzipped, you're able to go in and request an automated survey. And the automated survey gets lets you be very flexible on what you actually need to do. So you upload your data set and you get this data set page, and you can request your automated survey. And when you request your automated survey, you're going to select a template, pretty much with your layers that you want to run. Hope if I went to the right one here. Messing me up, Jake. No,
sorry, my bad.
So you're gonna go, hey, I want to do an automated survey, and you're gonna come in, you're gonna select a template. So think of it, for the CAD people, think of it just like a drawing template. you're able to come in and say how you want all your files set up. You can have it match your CAD or your shape files downstream so that your lines and your points align to whatever files you need, because you're able to export into geodatabases, drawing files, DGN files, whatever it is. So you can set all that up now, and you just pick whatever template it is, and can go click confirm settings. And then here's where you can really kind of customize what you want. It's going to bring up a nice little screen for you, and it's going to show you pretty much an overview of your project. And with this overview of the project, you're able to specify, I want to process a set location on my project. Maybe I want to process two different areas. Maybe I want to process the whole entire thing. I can do that. I have that flexibility. And we have this other added benefit, and the surveyors, especially anybody doing DTM work, tin surfaces, they love this. You can draw in stationing lines, or you can actually import them as well, so that everything that we draw in terms of line work through this corridor will be aligned. You have all those vertices nice and aligned, very easy to clean and work with downstream, and just again keeps all your line work looking as presentable and good as possible. Then on this right panel over here, you're able to go through and you're actually able to select what features you want to run. So these are some of our features that we have currently. In terms of objects, we could do bollards, posts, fire hydrants. We have a number of different utilities, from cabinets and pedestals to utility poles. We could do the transformers up on poles, which is again super big for things like the make ready deliverables. Then we get into a lot of things like signage, the actual lamp heads that may be on some of these poles, and then of course line work. Some things are turned off. That's based off of Jake's template that we're using here and what he needs. Some other things are turned on by default based off his template, but we could turn other things on and off that we decide we need. It's again totally flexible for us here. Once we're happy, we just say, hey, I'm going to save my selection and I'm going to submit it and enter my email address for a quick little notification. You'll get an email at the end when it's done. The email will say we ran 2.16 miles of data and here's how long it took. Number of variables can affect how long it takes. There's usually a pretty good general number for that though, and you'll have that kind of going forward on your next project. You kind of know and start to see based off of your system and how you like to collect your data, how long a typical project takes, because you're going to have these emails there for you, alerting you with it, which I think is really great. It's really helpful for everybody because it helps avoid that downtime. You're going to know as soon as that data is ready to look at. So I'm not actually going to run it. I'm just going to leave it go. I'm not going to go adding more data to Jake's account. But that's kind of the quick overview of it. And then from there, you're ready to go, and you could open right up into Digital Surveyor 2 and start getting to work.
Amazing. Well, I think that's a kind of a good overview into the intro there, Seth. I think, Jake, maybe you can walk us through now. I'm curious, where do you let Digital Surveyor 2 kind of run on its own? And then, where do you guys actually take over and add things in manually?
Right. So for the Digital Surveyor, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. I'll just kind of show you guys what we're doing. This is a job, the one that Seth was just looking at. This is the actual job in Digital Surveyor 2. So this is what it automatically produced, the auto survey for the whole job, the entire thing. And what we will typically go in and do is through the demo layers, or I'm sorry, for these layers, we'll go through and kind of pull down here and go through one at a time and go and verify those objects. One of the things that we really like about this feature is the fact that we can look at this and then do the imagery side by side. It's just showing exactly what it is, where it is. We can see it in 3D, and then we can also view it per our photos. This is why those picture resolution that Jason was talking about earlier with the ladybug is so important, because without it, we're kind of like, well, what is this dotted stick sticking out of the ground? Oftentimes, we've been in the business enough. We know, okay, we can look at those and tell that those are going to be tubular markers for, fiber optic and all that stuff. So what we would do here is from this point, just go over and change it to the specific layer, which we have created on our template, put it on marker fiber, hit approve, and it kicks it from here and takes it all the way down to the proper layer for that, and it's already approved. So this is the functionality and workflow that we use for it. And one of the things that we notice when we get into here, this allows us to be very, very hands-on, not just with the objects, but we also get the survey team, the guys that went and drove it out, utilizing this software as well. And so we've got not just me, but a couple other folks in here working, and it helps us go much, much quicker through the data. I was talking about earlier, our biggest issue has been, or is always, the time it takes to go and select the objects, walk from piece to piece, which, while this doesn't look like that's that far apart when we're talking about power poles, the difference between that power pole there and that power pole there is, a matter of a minute. And every second counts when you're talking about deliverables and trying to get it out to people as quick as possible. I think Jason made the comment earlier that there's more to do and less time to do it in. So, that's definitely, this has been a huge help with that process, for sure.
And then I guess, another question, Seth, as we're kind of going through this, maybe you can walk people through, I know something that comes up on, kind of in our sales motion here at Mach9 is, I think a lot of surveyors and, just companies in general have been kind of burned by AI classification and AI in general. And so, when we come in and start talking about this auto extraction that we do, how does that sort of differ from what people may have seen in the industry today or may have been, kind of burned by in the past?
Yeah, when everybody talks about AI, usually they immediately compare it to that black box solution. It's very much hands off, and you're going to get a result out of it. That's really all you can do with it. You got to take it somewhere else to work with it. You don't have a lot of control over it either, of like what you need out of it. For us, we don't want that to be the case. First off, a lot of times working in other softwares, it's very hard to edit existing data. And that's a big thing that we often have those conversations with people. It makes it very difficult. For us, we think it needs to be easy to edit that existing data. You need to be able to edit and work alongside the AI in order to be efficient. If you have to go redoing work, it's not really going to help you any, because there's no time savings to it. So that's where we have a lot of other tools in our platform where we call it AI assisted. So yes, you can have these full AI results, but we have a lot of other tools where you may not realize it on the surface, but the AI is working with you to help make your life a little easier, whether it's how you're picking points, how you're placing that next line, trying to find an object, trying to even interact with the images and move around with the image overlays. All of that we have AI kind of incorporated with. To us, that's what's going to help with you being efficient in there and really getting the most value out of it. It needs to be a full solution.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think those kind of points are what kind of helps build trust with AI in your workflow and process as well. And so, to that end, Jake, maybe you can kind of, and I know you already touched on this a little bit, but maybe you can kind of walk us through, what QC kind of looks for you now compared to before? I know obviously when it comes to introducing AI extraction into the process, it's a bit of a different kind of mindset and workflow shift from, from what people are kind of doing beforehand.
Right.
So what's that kind of change and look like for you now?
So one of the things that there's more QC, just point blank. There's more QC to do. We've talked about it as well. The benefit of having the LiDAR is that it picks everything up. That's also kind of the drawback, is it picks everything up. So you've got a lot more time going in and scrubbing data that you don't necessarily need. We know one of the biggest things that we see is it picks up every stick and tree out there, which is good, especially when we're dealing with urban forestry going downtown. But a lot of what we're doing in the longer runs, we're going through a lot of countryside. Just county roads, state highways, things like that. And that's just the nature of, the installation that we're doing. So it's picking up all of those areas. And one thing that we've noted is that we have to look at every single one of those points that it picks up just to verify that it is what it says it is, and it's not a power pole, or it's not a sign, or it's not something else, which, again, better to have more information than less. We talked about it earlier that, it takes that much more time to mobilize a group to go out and pick up data that you didn't get the last time. So with the multiple runs that we are doing with the mobile LiDAR, we're able to correlate both sides of our trajectories to get those into a single map space, pick up everything that's out there in the field and go through it. So as far as, again, QC, it's a lot more time intensive on that side, but it goes by quicker. We just managed to get about 120 miles or so done in less than a month. So which is a huge effort on our part. I mean, I say huge effort. It's a good result on our part. It would take a long time for us to do that by GPS. So with just a couple of crews, maybe that, and the same guys that went and did the data collection were like hands-on getting the data scrubbed at the same time. So it cut their time on task, I'd say, basically to a third of what they would have been if they were out there collecting it by hand. So it's a huge difference.
Yeah, I think that's a good highlight too, is that, when you can start combining pieces of these workflows, you're able to really increase your capacity without increasing your headcount. And you can actually start to train those people to do other things with that time too. So it's not only not increasing headcount, but actually like increasing the utilization of the headcount that you have too, which is pretty cool. Well, maybe we can take a look at that recent project again. And, Seth, maybe you can kind of walk us through, some of the workflows in the data set, like what some of this QA, QC actually looks like, some of the tools that we offer along with the auto extraction. And then, Jake, maybe you can kind of walk us through, as Seth is doing that, just like how you guys went about this project, like how'd you drive it? How'd you think about it? How long did it actually maybe take you to drive it? And then, run through and kind of produce results.
You bet.
So same data set Jake was looking at pulled up here. Again, beauty of the cloud-based system, multiple people can be working in here. We have a cool little feature we call multiplayer with that, or we actually have the ability to tile the data and everybody could check in and out tiles to work on. In the case of this, though, we could just keep the whole data set up, and because it's just really us talking to each other in here and me working on it. So for something like the Make Ready versus a more in-depth design survey, it's definitely a more simplified environment this automation's being run on. We're not dealing with as many features. We may not necessarily be concerned with things like the paint striping, although we can extract that for you. We can actually extract that to the point of we could tell you if it's dash lines, solid lines, the paint color. we can get all sorts of in depth with those attributes. And another thing too, as Jake mentioned earlier, we were talking about things like the classification. I think the classification is just super helpful, super important for doing this type of work.
Yes, it is.
For one, and we don't even see it, this classification is done automatically ahead of time, and by default, we had the moving objects turned off. So Trimble Business Center does a great job removing moving objects, and that's in there. We also do this as well on data sets for people, just in case it gets missed or anything. So I come in, I make sure I have that turned off, and then I'll usually start with turning off that high vegetation stuff. I want to make sure over my roads are clean. I can see those driveways and things like that I got to go down and capture. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. So as Seth's walking through this as well, for a lot of these jobs, it's most of what we're doing right now is in-ground installation. So like he's showing the wire lines right now for the power poles, which are super, super helpful if we needed to be out there on the poles, because we know exactly where all of those things are going to be connecting to. For our pole applications, that's a huge, huge benefit. We can get direct measurements from there instead of having to go literally stick it and find out what those heights are and, manually put those on a sheet and blah, 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 blah. So that benefit of being able to do that from here is also extractable into a CSV, which is huge for us as well. The other thing, and what I was really wanting to get to, is I can turn them off if I need to, with it being a classification, the wire classification itself. I can go in and just remove them. It cleans up the actual cloud itself so that I can go in and do exactly what Seth's doing here and drawing in the roads and the driveways that unfortunately the AI just doesn't pick up right now. So we're looking, I know they're working on it, but like the dirt drives and things like that are something that they're working on trying to gather, but it doesn't do a great job at the moment picking those up. But even by hand, it's still a quick line addition with the tools that we've got here. And one of the other things that I know we do as well is pick up fence lines, tree lines. And there's a tool that's integrated here that allows you to create the line work, and it just goes along its way. Like if you're trying to draw a fence line, Seth, if you want to, I don't know if you want to demo that or not. I mean, it's pretty awesome. And there's like that fence line right there would probably be perfect for it. But when you start a fence line, you just pick it up and you can start going, and it will automatically follow that fence line. Like you're just clicking the button and it will just go move down, so you don't have to pan as you're moving along the line. And it's very, very, very helpful.
And of course we have a number of different tools too. If I'm concerned about this stuff in terms of like elevation, can drape it down to that point cloud here. This is pretty interesting. And again, AI, certain things come up. What I was in earlier, I actually pulled up the trajectory view. So as I said before, we work with all parts of the data set. Everything that mobile LiDAR system can collect, we want that, and we can work with it, and we're going to give you the best results possible if we get all of that. But it's a fence here, but it's not a fully installed fence, so it's just those posts going up. And our AI actually called them out as poles because that's really what they are. They're poles. So it's a little bit of cleanup because you probably don't need them all shown as poles, but we can, a number of different ways we can go through removing those and editing that. While I'm in this view, though, I can actually just move right along the trajectory. The cameras will keep popping up for me. I can actually drag and move myself along as well, and work through. kind of jumping down the road to wherever I need to be. This is a really popular workflow for a lot of the people that do this type of work. They like having the imagery because it helps them identify a lot of this stuff easier, so that they know what things are, what things should be. So,
well, one benefit of this as well, Seth, don't mean to talk over you, but
go right ahead. You talk all you want.
When we're doing these, the benefit is this road is paved, but a lot of the places where we go, the road's not paved. And so the AI is not like that is a gravel drive. So it's not picking up the edge of gravel. Well, if the road is that way, well, how are you drawing it? And the benefit of the being able to follow the imagery of the trajectory and draw and add points is you can literally go down the route along the trajectory and just draw your line in at the edge of the road. And it'll take you as you're going, you can see where those edges are, and it goes way more quickly to get you accurate data. And that's the other thing too, is that the industry, the clients that we have are requiring more and more accurate data for their database, for their 3GIS systems, or however they're keeping the information on their GIS sites. So the bigger part of what we're trying to do is make sure that we're providing accurate information for those clients to their standard and their specifications. And this is one way we definitely are able to do that.
In terms of that object workflow too that you were talking about before, and those images, I could come right through here, going right down this list, right, checking all of these with that image. And I could have all these. I could have these 300 polls probably done in an hour.
Oh yeah.
And that's with me getting distracted, I'm sure. Nice and easy. Then your system has that nice downward camera,
right?
So that we get the manholes even a lot better. So I can actually read sanitary on this one.
Right.
So that to me also helps.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of the biggest reason that we're doing, the biggest benefit we get from here is being able to identify these objects specifically, because permitting requires a lot of times that we show utilities. We have to show all surface utilities anyways per client requirements, but when we're going out there and we know that there's a sanitary line or a water line or something like that, because we can see what's out there in the ground, valves, hydrants, all of that stuff, it's a lot easier for us to connect the dots, so to speak.
I'll just chime in there since you mentioned the downward facing camera. One of the added benefits that, it's not directly related to this workflow, but with that downward facing camera, we're able to do pavement analysis workflows in Trimble Business Center. And I know we have, while it's not the primary focus for the design piece, oftentimes contractors are required to do preliminary assessment of the construction site and then a post-construction assessment to determine if there is any damage. So being able to use that data kind of as a baseline pre-construction has been helpful for a lot of customers, so that they can analyze any effect that their construction process had on the roadways that they were working on.
I'm curious, Jared, if we have some of these questions we probably have coming in.
Yeah, I was about to actually hit you with one. So one question we got here, just as you're kind of going through this, is around whether or not the AI kind of creates blocks or actual lines and shapes attached to the correct elevations on the point cloud. I think the question's coming from wanting to ensure the DTM is accurate, as it would be if it was surveyed traditionally.
Yep. So everything we do is pretty much everything we do is true to the point cloud. It snaps to the point cloud. We have some really great point snapping capabilities in here and drawing capabilities. if I go to draw a line, you'll see there's like this little circle highlighter with it. We call that our pick sonar to help visualize kind of what planes you're picking on, and to help, again, it's one of those little minor things that you don't realize is really helpful for that. And then we have all your drape settings too, to like fine tune it. If you like resample a line and you want to drape it down, you want to make sure you're in the ground when you're placing points in the grass or in the trees. We have all of that. We have some other nice ways to place points as well. I can come over here to, something like right along here where we have the canopy, and I can actually snap to the corners of the canopy here for the gas pumps, and it'll find those types of edges for me, and then I of course can drape it down to my point cloud using our drapes. A lot of cool little tricks and workflows there for some of our customers that worry about things in 3D very heavily. We can get really in depth with that, doing a lot of cool stuff.
And then another kind of follow-up question to that, Seth. Maybe you can walk through. So we got a question here. Does it drape to correct elevation while moving those lines around? And so we have a few different kind of options for how you can drape lines in the platform and move things around too.
Yeah, we have a few different ways you can drape to the point cloud. So you could drape to the low points where every point is. You could drape high. We have a drape middle, which is great for like if you're on the road, you're trying to be as accurate as possible, and you want to take into account some of like the point cloud noise. We have a drape to corner, which finds any type of like sharp edge where you're at. It does a great job actually finding like utility wires if you're just trying to draw them in real quick and rough. And then we have a drape to plane. So that's like you just want everything drawn at a set elevation. You want to set all your lines to a 0 elevation. That's a great tool to use for that. But when you do your drape here, I'll do it on this line. You could specify things like your radius. We can actually do an offset. So I could specify, hey, hold the elevation out here for the line. I could change my drape mode that I want to use. And then I could actually do some fine tuning to like specific points that may fail. That'll also show me if any points are unable to drape. It'll actually give me a warning for that as well.
Awesome. So yeah, lots of different options there to kind of take advantage of. I don't know if you'll be able to find a good example of this, but we got a question around what happens when there isn't any LiDAR data, but maybe there's image data. And so I think maybe a couple things we can walk through here is like, when there's small gaps, what the models do, and then generally how you can actually use those images maybe to actually annotate the data too.
So our models are trained on extracted data just the way that most people extract from LiDAR data. So when there's gaps in data, when there's things blocking parts of the curb, our model's typically going to follow a lot of the same things that you do. It may try to interpolate from the two cross sections on either side. It may kind of look at the curb and go in cross section view and go, well, the bottom of, if I'm looking at the curb comes down, the edge of pavement's over here, so my bottom of curb should be somewhere in line with that. It looks at all of those types of things, and it uses that to help place those points. Any line that we draw actually goes through a few different AI models of ours, and they kind of all work their way out and decide where each vertex goes. It's a lot of cool stuff there. And then the imagery comes into play as for objects, the imagery is required. But the imagery gets overlaid with the point cloud. So again, if there's slight gaps in like the point data, it gets a little sparse. It does try to place those points for you. It may not be placed the best, but it will get it at least somewhat close for you so that it is though more intended to still have a little bit of LiDAR data to it in order to place some of those objects.
I'll answer a quick one. So I got a question here whether Mach9s for mobile mapping only. It can be used with pretty much any LiDAR modality. So I think we started off with mobile mapping because it provides some of the cleanest, densest data available. You really can't get anything quite like it. So for these types of projects, when you're doing larger stretches, I think earlier Jake mentioned, 100+ mile stretches, like the mobile mapper just makes a lot of sense. But you can certainly use it with, SLAM systems, aerial systems, terrestrial systems, anything. Maybe to that end, I know we're getting a little bit close on time here. I'll keep filling some of these questions in, but just kind of round things out a little bit. On the hardware side of things, Jason, maybe you can, and I know we touched on this a bit at the beginning, but maybe you can walk us through kind of the hardware decisions that matter most when people are starting to think about how to bring LiDAR into their workflows for Make Ready, or just in general.
I would say, like, specific to the industry that we're dealing with here today, I think we have a really good playbook combining the MX60 with Mach9. It really accelerates the purchase to productivity timeframe. So, we've got an easy to use system that's highly accurate with incredibly dense data. And then partnering with you guys just really enables the customer to cut down on that learning curve as far as the extraction and deliverable piece. So, I mean, they can literally go from training on the system to producing deliverables, in a month. So, which I think is pretty close to what we're seeing with Stalcup. So, they got their system and they were collecting data immediately. So, I feel like the fiber to home MX60, great option. And if we need to pair it with other data sets, like you've kind of mentioned, a lot of that can happen in TVC, and then that combined multi-sensor data set can come your direction as well.
So Jared, I was looking at these questions as well. I saw this one. How long does it normally take to get results for automated extraction?
Oh yeah. I have my sales hat answer here, but I'm curious so I think what I typically say is it takes anywhere from like 15 to 30 minutes per linear mile. And that depends kind of on the density of the data set, because what's happening there is the AI models are actually running on the data. So they're going through looking for all this. So if you have really sparse data, or sorry, not sparse data, you can have really dense, nice data, but that doesn't have a ton of features in it. So if it's more rural, it's typically going to run a bit quicker than if it's in like a very dense urban environment.
Yep.
But how does that sound accurate with your actual use and experience?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty close to our actual experience. I mean, we're looking at we did some work up around Indianapolis and out in the county roads. The line work was pretty quick, but once we got into town, it is, I think, a lot to do with the features per foot kind of situation, how many objects there actually are. Once we got into an urban environment, it took a little longer to do, but I'm not unreasonably longer. We're looking at, day to two, for it to process upwards of, 20 to 30 miles. So at 20 miles in a day is perfectly fine. I've got stuff to do in the meantime, but and it's coming in accurately, and we're able to kind of see that process. We've already gone through the Trimble business stuff and handed it back off. It's pretty quick, versus, the way we were doing it before, 20 miles. Well, you're doing 2 miles a day kind of with a couple of teams. So that's definitely a huge improvement.
Then, yeah, we got another one here, kind of around what the software works with. So it's not only TVC, it can be used, with pretty much anything. There's certain file formats that we take in. It works really well with if you're using a Trimble unit and processing it in TBC, we have a really clean workflow with Trimble for that. But you can bring data in from just about anywhere as well. So I guess question here on kind of the like internal hardware side for actually using software and whatnot. One of the nice things about the software being cloud-based is that we really handle most of the heavy computing on our end. So Seth's just on a laptop right now. It's a half decent laptop, but you don't need like a supercomputer to run the software. Everything can kind of be run in the background, on our servers, which is nice.
Yeah, I think really the major hardware deal for us is on the processing the Trimble business stuff, just getting the data compiled and ready to go. So our machines are built for that process, but we have remote folks that are doing this specific work, and they are using laptops, just kind of mid-brand, middle of the road, nothing top tier, anything crazy like that. We're not having to go like super gaming computer level or, workstation, ThinkPad type stuff. They're just able to use their regular laptops to use it. And it's workable. That's one of the biggest things also we noticed is the difference between the Digital Surveyor 2 is that it's a lot less weighty on the GPU to actually process the data.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know we're just about at time here already. I know on my end this time has flown by, so hopefully this has been informative and interesting to you all as well. Coming out of this, you'll be getting follow-ups from the Seiler team as well as from the Mach9 team. If you have any questions on the hardware side, what getting into mobile mapping might look like, definitely reach out to Jason and his team. They're amazing to work with. If you have questions on the software side, we'll be sending out a follow-up email. Feel free to reach out to us. And then if you have questions on combining both, we're more than happy to join forces like we are here today and help you answer kind of all of your questions. So definitely keep an eye out for those emails. Please let us know if you have any questions, and we're always more than happy to help out.